So yes, I do still believe in God becomes man so that man becomes God, that idea. I just don't believe it in the understanding of the hypostatic union, where it's basically this, idea that God, right, the Son, having the God nature and assuming your nature to his God nature, right, the human nature, and then deifying it, and that's how you're saved. It's because there's no mention of faith, right, and how without faith it's impossible to please God. And so, I try to stick more to the Antioch paradigm of a suffering man, not a suffering God, so to say. That the Word became a man, not God. Not just simply a human nature. The Word didn't even become a human nature, to be honest. But basically, that the Son is the man. Of course, the divine Son. And so it's just like, because I'm arguing with this. I was arguing with this one Protestant, and basically, it was saying how, well, that's a pagan concept, and that's a lie from the devil, right? That men can become gods, or so to say, even though in the Psalm it says, although you are gods, you die like men, and Jesus says that ye are gods, right? And so, the man has his being complete with God, right? Has a union with God, union with the Holy Spirit, and so God becomes man, so man becomes God. You would have this divine Son, who is the fullness of both man and God, and how just do this everlasting faith that we are, healed, and then in a sense deified, right? And so to conform your image and being to Christ, having his mind and spirit, is to have the same mind and spirit of God, in a sense, like it is the same divinity, because Jesus is God, he is God and man, without being a deity himself. And so it wouldn't be this pantheon of gods. It would be of different gods, right? It would be basically just God and his children in this Trinitarian, fellowship. And so, because what is God like? Jesus reveals it, right? The Son reveals what God is like, full of grace, full of mercy, full of faithfulness, love, things like that. That one holiness, one divinity. And so, to be like God is to be like that. And so that's why I do believe in deification, theosis and things like that. Also, like, we're supposed to be a habitation for God to dwell in. Man has a oneness with God, God has a oneness with man. And so all true sons are true gods, technically, because there's one God, one divinity, one holiness. And that's basically all that I said. That's basically all that I said to him. And it kind of, as I was watching this debate between Father Patrick and this Reformed Protestant over the one true church. I do side with orthodoxy, of being the one true church, but I subscribe more to like orthodoxy being like hospital, science of healing. Orthodoxy, not really being a religion. Of course, I'm not trying to undermine the tradition. Like, I think traditional is important. Tradition. I think I think the purpose, right, is to conserve what is true. But however, I don't agree with traditionalism. Where it's like it almost becomes an idol, the tradition itself. And so I try to just stay away from that. Yeah, but I do love the hesychasm and the deification, theosis, and what else? The theoria, right? Direct knowledge of God. And so that was that debate. He was concerned with. I think the Reformed Protestant was concerned about no salvation outside the church, right? And how Orthodox don't evangelize, and so how can anyone be saved if the church isn't evangelizing or anything like that? I feel like I was saying that the light became a true man, and it is by a true man we are saved. The man is the fullness of God, right? And so he's also the new Adam. And so, like I said in one of my previous videos, how he is the head of both humanity and the church. And so to be outside the church, yeah, there's no salvation, but salvation really is the life and truth and fire of God, right? How orthodoxy is really this understanding, the understanding of all things of God, right? Encountering that reality, the present salvation that is ever before us, and how the church's job is to basically engulf all of humanity in that light, fire, and truth, right? That life, light, and fire, that everlasting way of God. It's basically, supposed to engulf all the humanity in that. And so basically to convert the whole of humanity. And so it's not really about just being elect and going to heaven. It's that you are a partaker of this divinity, right? And the purpose is to convert, the whole of humanity to this understanding, this way of living, and this truth, right? And so that's why to be outside the church, there's no salvation in the sense that there's no understanding, there's no light. The church is the light and pillar of the truth, right? And so I understand that there's no salvation outside of that. But of course I would agree that no one is outside of Christ, because Christ is both the head of humanity and the church, being the Adam from heaven, right? And then also salvation still being needed in the church. How people still struggle even in the church, right? Because we're not perfect, but we strive to abide in that truth and that life and that fire, right? We strive to abide in it, persevering in it, And so I don't know, kind of yes and no on that thing when about is there salvation outside the church. I guess people, because they're so concerned with eternal damnation, I don't know. Personally, I still don't accept that teaching. I do believe in everlasting judgment and unquenchable fire, right, which is God. I remind, like, there's one Orthodox I was arguing with, how in the Bible, when they stand before Jesus, right, they plead with him, Lord, Lord, did we not do these things, prophesy in your name, cast out many demons? And so these are things that they obviously had, they were gifted with, right? But Jesus says, depart from me, you worker of iniquity. And so this kind of shows that how the choice is really depending upon God's everlasting understanding as to who will perish, or be outside the kingdom, right? Or and so I do believe all souls, similar to the river of fire, that all souls would be with God. And so that those who receive the union would be in paradise, right? And those who don't, be outside. When I say that outside, right, it's like a temporal condition, because sin is not eternal. And so in the presence of God, it would eventually be rehabilitating, right? Because I don't see how sin can be eternal, right? Hatred for God is evil and wicked. Therefore, it's a work of straw that does not withstand the everlasting fire of God. So I believe that the conditional state of being of hell is the temporal condition. And so that's all I wanted to say. I'll just stop it here. If you like my video, please like and subscribe. Thank you and God bless.